Another look at the Oregon-Indiana matchup this week and why Dan Lanning and Dante Moore are just that awesome.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is that time once again for Locked On Ducks. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin, and thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view of the day. It is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, your number one source to stay up to date with the Ducks. Tons to get to. We'll get you ready with an Oregon look at Indiana. And today, Jorgie is here from the illustrious trio of Jerry, Jorgie, and Joey from the Oregon Sports Network. I got some mailbag questions later to get to as well. This episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel right now. New customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. Jorgie, it is game day game number 13 all time for Oregon as Indiana comes to town. They got some help. Shout out to the Texas Longhorns for just not being any good at this point in the season. But when you go into a game like this that's going to have such a big national stage, does it give it that kind of next level feel, buzz, and intensity to you?
It does. These don't come very often, these type of games. I mean, they don't. Ohio State has the name. Indiana doesn't have the football name. But as of late, last couple, 2 or 3 years, playing some unbelievable football, legitimately top 5 team, top 10 team, guys all over their roster on the offense and defense that are big time that anybody would like to have. So when you get a team like Oregon and Indiana together in Autzen Stadium, which is louder than Penn State, by the way, louder than Beaver Stadium. It is. It just is. When you have a chance to get a team like that on maybe a little bit of a rainy day, but we'll see. Oftentimes, as you know, it doesn't rain even when it's supposed to rain. So there's a different edge to it, Spencer, just a different edge to it. And you can already feel it on a Wednesday, 3 days before the game.
Yeah, and, I'm definitely excited about the matchup. Top 10 game. Indiana's got, I think, more on the line than Oregon in this spot just because they're still looking for that real signature win. Now, in my view, that was Illinois a couple weeks ago because of the style in which they beat a good Illinois football team. That still doesn't carry the same cachet as beating an Oregon, an Ohio State, a Penn State, Michigan when they are at their peak. Indiana is still looking for that game because they beat Michigan last year, but Michigan wasn't, all that great. And then their best opponents were Ohio State and Notre Dame in the playoff, and then they lost that game. I very much look at this matchup as Oregon is the hunted between these two programs, and as I am every week, I'm really interested to see how Dan Lanning approaches that with his team.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad take at all. Just because Oregon has the household name in college football, has been, at an elite status or close to it for a long period of time. And Indiana is kind of the Johnny-come-lately, really good Johnny-come-lately, but they are in that position. So I don't think what your take is on that is a bad take. I think it's actually a good take. And they're coming in here. Oregon has the target, even though I think Oregon's going to find a way, and Dan Lanning always seems to find a way to put the target on the other chest. He does such a great job of motivating his team, having them ready to play, having them prepared and ready to go in whatever facet or all facets of the game are needed, including in the locker room before, including at halftime, and including after the game. He just seems to get those guys going. And frankly, I think it's a group of guys, Spencer, that are motivated together to perform at a really high level. They don't have to take a whole lot, but when you've got a coach who, as he's talked about, if somebody else wants to throw gas on the fire, that's exactly what Dan Lanning will do to get guys who are already at this level to go to this level. So I just see two teams that are going to be playing at this level this weekend, and it's going to be a potential another, could be another Indiana-Iowa look between these two teams. When you look at them statistically defensively, even though offensively they're great too, it could be a heavyweight bout, just like we saw 2 weeks ago at Penn State.
Yeah, if you look at the talent composite between these two teams, Oregon's got the advantage there, especially I think when you look into the depth at every position on both sides of the ball. But what impresses me most about both these teams, Jorgie, is the balance that they have going both ways. We saw Indiana win a game with defense at Iowa. We saw Oregon win a game I think with both sides, but mostly with defense, particularly in the first half at Penn State. You know, the offense wasn't getting the ball into the end zone. Penn State's defense, of course, was really good, playing at home off a bye and all of that. But, you know, the defense was keeping them in that game, and then the offense comes and goes. I just think that both of these teams can win a lot of different ways. I think they can run it, they can throw it. They can win with defense, they can win with offense. They can do a little bit of both. I think that's what makes this such a really exciting matchup.
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth, and I've been telling a lot of people that both these teams can win games in different ways. You need to score 50, they can do it. You need to hold somebody to 10, they can do it. You need to play, a back and forth type of game. They're not going to shy away from, okay, we'll get scored on, but we're going to score on you type of situation. Both teams have been in those type of games. Both teams have come through those type of games, the taste of a W. And that's what you want, in that game with Iowa. It was close right down to the end. But, obviously Indiana made the key play at the key time on the road in particular, which is what Oregon did at Penn State in a really tough environment. I just think there's so many things, aside from one that I'll mention to you, that have these teams almost look like it almost feels like they're looking in the mirror at each other. Offense, receivers, the way they run the ball, the way they get after the quarterback, the turnover takeaway, ratio and margin, the efficiencies of the quarterbacks. I mean, all those things are almost a duplicate between what they do. Other than, I'll just mention it right now, tackles for loss. I don't know if you've taken a look at that, but the tackles for loss, unbelievable that Indiana has. Oregon has 22. Okay, not bad after 5 games. 49 tackles for loss.
Whoa.
49
That's a lot.
tackles for loss in 5 games. So either they got a whole bunch against Kennesaw State and a couple of other teams, although, if you watch that Illinois game, they were in the backfield all day long. When you create negative plays like that, it puts teams in the second and third and long type of situations. I think in Oregon staying ahead of the chains, controlling that line of scrimmage, because 49 tackles for loss, unbelievable.
Yeah, I actually hadn't seen that stat, and that's a huge. You're talking about almost 10 tackles for loss per game, whether a play made behind the line of scrimmage or
it's what their stat sheet said anyway. So I'm just going by that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the stats are wrong at this point in the year, or else somebody might need to be relieved of their position. I do want to go back, and I know my listeners always enjoyed taking a road trip down memory lane for that Penn State game because, boy. I've talked about it a lot here on the show. It was such a big stage. I didn't think it was lessened after they lost to UCLA. I think Oregon just kind of broke them mentally, and they went out and were still trying to get over the Oregon loss, and they just didn't. And then UCLA came with a coordinator that didn't know how to use a headset, but knew how to call plays, obviously. And Jerry Neuheisel's one of the most incredible things. But you were there at Beaver Stadium on the call with Jerry Allen. What was that experience like, and what were you thinking when Dylan Thieneman makes that interception?
Well, I mean, leading up to it, what a show Penn State put on. I mean, it's a bucket list place with all the places that I've been, in 37 years, and the stadiums that we've been able to see and the big games we've been to in that type of deal. Top 5 easily. I mean, I'd put Knoxville in Tennessee right up there. I'd put Lincoln with Nebraska right up there. Nobody ever beats the Rose Bowl. I don't care what game it is that you're playing there. But just the venue, the crowd, the show that they put on is unbelievable. And they're loud. There's no doubt about it. They're into the game when they need to be. A lot of real well-scripted type of stuff that they do. But it's a little bit more of a show than a disruption, get in your face, blow up the game like Oregon's crowd can do from a noise standpoint. I thought Oregon handled it really well. False start penalties that they had really were more unforced errors than they were crowd affecting the game. But, to be able to see that and then to be up at the second or third level in that stadium and to look out for miles, and maybe you heard this, Spencer, but as far as the eye could see were tailgaters. I mean, as far. And
I did hear that, yeah.
Oh, my gosh, I couldn't believe it. They just went on forever and ever and ever. And, 110,000 people, I guess that's the case when they just tailgate from stadium going out, and they can go forever. And it is forever that they go on that. So it was a great show, and everything that went on with it. But I just thought that Coach Lanning had his team prepared so well, not only for the game, but for some of the things I don't think that they could have anticipated were going to happen, like right outside the locker room. and other things like that in relation to how the temporary locker room was set up and how they let people get so close to the players as they come on the field and all the different things like that just added an extra angle, a little bit more salt on the wound, if you want to call it, for that particular game that we're up in the press box. We have no idea is going on until we see the film afterwards. So anyhow, just one of those special trips, long trip. I thought that Oregon did a great job without a week off, not making a big deal out of the trip, kind of like Penn State did when they went and played UCLA. I mean, why even talk about it? You're going to have to deal with it in years to come. Deal with it. And I thought Oregon just dealt with that piece of it really well, too.
Yeah, I get a bigger kick out of USC and UCLA ever talking about it, because I just sit there and go, well, how do we get here? Like, oh, you guys are going on long road trips. Let me think about it for a moment. I'm going to put my thinking cap on and go, boy, how did we get into a spot where we're making these long road trips, guys? You got any ideas? Like, any? Yeah. Anyway, we'll move away from that. Dante Moore was brilliant against Penn State. I think he can be great against Indiana as well. Get Jorgie's thoughts on him and Oregon's head man. That all coming up next. First, this episode brought to you by Supply House. When the whistle blows on a new repair, you get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. If you need parts fast for a project, Supply House has next day delivery. You talk about a game changer, it doesn't get more game changing than next day delivery. Join the free TradeMaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use the promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. This episode also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The NFL season's here, and FanDuel has an offer you just don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, you put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Maybe you think Oregon is steamrolling Indiana on Saturday. FanDuel's got the line at 7.5 in favor of Oregon. So if they win by 8 or more, hey, if that $5 bet's your first, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I'm just saying that could be a good proposition for it. Or if you think Indiana's keeping it close and Oregon's only winning 23-20, maybe you want Indiana plus 7.5. Whatever you want, FanDuel's got it. So ask yourself this question: what are you waiting for? I don't know either. Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Check them out at FanDuel.com. Jorgie, let's talk about Dante Moore. And you were going through the Penn State game and how awesome it was. You mentioned how well Oregon handled the environment. You can't do that if your quarterback isn't really good. And I saw I think it was maybe J.D. Pickell at On3 say, Dante Moore is just like a sicko, man. Like, he's insane. How do you walk into that environment and you're just completely unfazed? And I remember talking to him as a high schooler and thinking, he's got a good head on his shoulders. Like, this is a guy who was raised right and thinks about the right kind of stuff. I was still surprised at some degree at how well everything operated. Like, he looked like he'd done it a bunch of times before, and he hasn't. I mean, he went to Utah with UCLA a couple of years ago, and that's a great environment, as you know. But this was Penn State on the road, great defense, big game. I don't know what's going to rattle this guy.
Yeah, sometimes when you see that, I thought, gosh, I don't feel the sense of urgency that I need to feel. I don't see him feeling the sense of urgency. But I think what people have to realize is that that's who he is. He might not externalize it. He might not be up in somebody's face, slapping them on the head and everything else that goes with it. He's focused. He's in control. He knows what's going on and when to make certain decisions. Right now, he's just making such great decisions in whatever situation that he's put in, whether he has to scramble out to his right and decide, do I throw it back across my body to Kenyon Sadiq in a small hole? Do I just chuck it out of bounds? When to take off and run? The thing that I really got out of Dante more than anything in this last game, even with his very smooth, relaxed demeanor, is a toughness that I can't say I ever questioned. I just hadn't ever been able to see it on display. The amount of times he had to tuck it and run, sometimes head first, sometimes sliding on his rear, but he was going to get hit, and he was going to get hit by a physical defense. And he wasn't afraid to take that shot, protect the ball, make particular key plays. I mean, there were a couple of fourth down runs where he didn't make it. And, Penn State took over and with really good field position. But most of the time when he had to run the ball, it was out of necessity to keep a drive alive, not a preset play. There were some preset plays too, but that's the type of thing. If I'm a player on the team, I don't care if I'm on the defensive side of the ball or the offensive side of the ball. I want to play with and for that guy because he's going to bust his ass and put his head at harm, everything else at harm to get us a win. And it's exactly what he did.
Yeah, and you talk about the running moments that he had to have. 4th and 1 early in the game, 4th and 1 game on the line. And Will Stein goes to those quarterback runs, and the offensive line, which we'll get, as we mentioned, a big test against Indiana this week and how active and physical they are with their front seven. I think in the run game and the pass game, it's another good test. I've been impressed with that unit so far. But the other thing I want to touch on that you mentioned briefly with Dante Moore, the decision making. That was the question with him, and I know a lot of people had it. I think it was fair because of what happened at UCLA as a true freshman. He was in a tough spot. But the problem wasn't that, his arm's not as good as we thought. He's not as good. No, when he had time to throw, he made special throws at UCLA. The problem is that he got rushed. It looks like the game was sped up, and he made a lot of bad decisions. I can only think of, 2 or 3 throws all season, Jorgie, that I've looked at in real time or on replay and gone, boy, that was a bad decision. I just feel like he is seeing the field so well, and I feel like Dillon Gabriel needs a shout out here because, boy, it looks like he gave him all the wisdom that he needed to go be a great quarterback.
Yeah, Dillon Gabriel. Will Stein, I think, has been a really calming force for him as he's coached him and brought him along. Don't ever downplay the meaning and the value of being in a system for an entire year and then going into it for a second year, because I think that's also what has helped him out a lot. That first year at UCLA down there, brand new system, going from high school right into college football, a lot of things happen really quick and you can't wrap your mind around it quick enough. And so your mind gets sped up, you make quick decisions. I think the game has slowed down for him, frankly, being in year number 3, second year, full year in the system. Learn from a guy like Dillon Gabriel, let alone Will Stein as an offensive coordinator, and just the confidence and the belief that his team and Dan Lanning has in him, I think are all contributing factors to it. But you're right. I mean, there's not 2 or 3 balls that I would even think about this year that I would go, geez, I wouldn't have thrown that ball. I mean, I don't even remember one right now. That's how many there haven't been. You would think about those. Why did he throw that pass? Why did he
I can think of one. There was one against Oregon State. He got fooled on the coverage. He thought the slot corner was in man and that he was clearing the zone for Sadiq coming across the field, and he was actually disguising it well. He's in zone. If the pass hadn't been deflected, it's probably a pick. That's the only one that I can think of.
Good mind. It may be the 2-point conversion,
Which, again, was kind of a cool coverage. They bluff rushed, denied Dennis Sutton, and he dropped to the middle of the field, and you just didn't see him.
Like a spy almost, but dropped into coverage.
Yeah, but he came from the defensive end point. It was kind of a cool concept. I saw that, and I actually liked the play that Oregon had. DeCorian goes across and then to the back of the end zone, and then I saw what they did to it, and I was like, that was kind of cool. Like, tip your cap. But lastly, Jorgie, before I let you go, Dan Lanning just keeps impressing. I didn't expect Oregon to win at Penn State. I'd pick that as Oregon's one loss coming into this year because there were so many circumstances working against the Ducks, and I think it's just yet another really big feather in his cap as Oregon's head coach that he went and won that game, and he's got an opportunity for another top 10 win on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, he's got talent on that team. There's no doubt about it. He and his coaching staff have worked their rear ends off to bring in talent. You just never know sometimes what the traits are within that talent, what's in the heart, what's in the mind until you get those guys on the field. And what's so impressive with him, Spencer, is, everything obviously that he's done to bring this team together, but the culture. I mean, the egos are aside. These guys, I got to tell you, being around it as much as we're around it, around the hotel, around other things like that, they are a group that cares for each other and loves each other and plays for each other. And not playing for me, they're playing for we. And that starts from the top down. That starts from Dan Lanning and the rest of the staff and the way that they drill that into those guys. Now they don't have to drill it into them because these guys believe it because they see the results and what it's done. And so, kudos to Coach Lanning just for a ton of things, including to me, and the things I learned, frankly, as a leader in what I do outside the football world. Culture matters. It really does matter. When you can stir in a little bit of talent with that, and guys that are driven and guys that are prepared and want to do the extra, it just goes miles and miles and miles. But it all starts with a foundation of culture. And I think Dan Lanning is leading the way with his team and his coaching staff.
I wonder if he talked to Dana Altman at all, because Dana for a long time has had that mantra, sometimes you, sometimes me, always us. And you match that with the way Oregon's recruited the last couple of years. Here you are. Here you are. Mike Jorgensen of the Oregon Sports Network. Appreciate the time. As always, Jorgie, thanks for stopping by.
All right, Spencer. Thanks, man.
Still got mailbag question to answer on today's show. Is Oregon going 12-0? That and much more coming up next. First, this episode brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS top safety pick awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same intention to how they craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like the players on Oregon's roster, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. This episode also brought to you by our friends at Quo. One of the tools that help make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly OpenPhone. It's the same great business phone system that you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying two phones or relying on a landline. None of that silliness. Quo, formerly OpenPhone, will let your team share one number and collaborate on calls and texts like a shared inbox, so no customer gets left hanging. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly OpenPhone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO.com/lockedoncollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another device, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. All right, let's wrap with some mailbag questions. Jeremiah sends this one, and here is an SSA. That's Spencer Scale of Agreement, of course. Oregon goes 12-0 again, meets Ohio State in the Big Ten championship, and also again in the playoff. What are you just describing our nightmares here? Like what, Oregon against Ohio State in the regular season. It's like the Minions when they're cheering for things they like and don't like. Ohio State in the regular season. Yeah! Ohio State in the regular season. Moo! Anyway, I'm so grateful you guys put up with me. I really just come on here and be myself for 30 minutes a day. So, meets Ohio State in the Big Ten championship and again in the playoff. If I were to separate those, this would be different. But yeah, I'm going to put that at a 7. I'm gonna put that at a 7. Those look like two really good football teams. Buckeyes offense keeps getting better and better. So yeah, I'll put that at a 7. Tyler, in your opinion, what is Oregon's percentage to make the playoff heading into this week against Indiana? Also, with a win or loss this weekend, how does that affect the percentage? For example, if heading into the weekend, Oregon has a 90% chance to make the playoff, a win over Indiana would increase the percentage to 99%, and a loss would lower it to, let's say, 80%. Let's assume no major injuries. Go Ducks. Yeah, when you do these sorts of projections, you have to assume no major injuries, because if Dante Moore suddenly goes down, that's a problem. That'd be problematic. He's really good. I hope Austin Novosad's healthy. See if he's on the injury report list this week. But yeah, I'd say going into this week, I actually like your numbers a lot. I don't know if you thought about those or if those were just kind of hypotheticals you threw out as here's an example, Tyler. But I'm telling you, going into this, with a win over Penn State and the schedule Oregon has left, I can't see them being any worse than 10-2. I really can't. So, and again, that's worst case scenario from here on out going forward. So, yeah, I'd put this at about a 90% right now. I would actually go, I'll say 95, maybe 97%. You're splitting hairs at that point. Something truly awful would have to happen. Dante Moore getting hurt, or everybody on the, I feel like Oregon's deep enough to survive a couple of serious injuries, though. So, yeah, Dante Moore stays healthy the rest of the year, then if Oregon wins on Saturday, there's a 95+% chance. I'll go 97.5%. How about that? That they make the playoff. If they lose on Saturday, which is possible, I think Oregon's going to win, but if they lose on Saturday, I'll go 85%. Because again, 10-2 is going to get you in the playoff for where Oregon's at. Yep, part of that's their preseason ranking. Guess what? You do earn a preseason ranking. They don't happen by accident. So I'm actually fine with them mattering to an extent. But I don't think you should stay latched to them. But, 10-2 Oregon's making the playoff. Nathan sends this one in, a Spencer scale of agreement. The would-be play of the game at Penn State was Dante Moore running down and pushing out of bounds the defender after Penn State's recovery of the Noah Whittington almost fumble. Yeah, it wasn't a fumble, by the way. I mean, if Dyer wasn't down, Whittington is certainly down. First of all, but second of all, he grazed the top of the grass. I don't know what else you're describing as the ground. There's no pressure sensor under a football field. So, the would-be play of the game. Yeah, with the way Oregon's defense was playing and Penn State's offense that's actually a great point. I'm going to put, that's a really good point because he didn't know that he was down. It was ruled a fumble on the field. Dante did run him down, save a touchdown. I trust Oregon's defense to come up with a stop in that spot. So, yeah, I'm going to put that at a 9. That's a 9. That's a good one. Okay. Couple questions here from Bud. 1, Jayden Lamar took a shot to the head in the Penn State game. Do we know anything about his condition? Will he play on Saturday? I haven't seen anything. Lanning might have spoken about it this week. He was asked about some injuries. Sorry, I should have looked at that before I came on here to record the segment. But the reason that I'm not going to go back and re-record is that I don't think Jayden Lamar will get that many carries if he does play. Like, Whittington's getting healthier. This is a D'Air Hill, Noah Whittington, Jordan Davis in backfield. Jayden Lamar should be fourth. So if, the fourth string running back carries have to go to Dink Riggs, fine. Is Lamar better? Yeah. Because he's more experienced. I think Dink Riggs has got more potential, but I think that Lamar has done some good things. It's just, he's clearly the number 4 back. So I'm really not that worried about it. 2, if there was an inter-squad game between Oregon's underclassmen, including redshirt sophomores, and upperclassmen, who do you think would win? The gut instinct is to say the upperclassmen. I think this answer is, here's the hard part. The offensive line is all upperclassmen. You've got senior and Isaiah World, Emmanuel Prenon, Iuli, I think, is redshirt junior. Harkey is junior, senior. Poncho is a junior. So the entire starting O-line. But Dante Moore would not be the quarterback for that group. Then the defensive line, Amari Washington's a redshirt sophomore, so he'd be on the underclassmen team. Yeah, I think the underclassmen are probably going to win that, actually. That'd be a fun battle. That'd be a really fun battle. But I think the underclassmen are going to win because you have Dante Moore. The offensive line would be a concern. That'd be really challenging. But then on the other side, Novosad, also redshirt sophomore like Dante Moore. So actually, Brock Thomas would be the quarterback on the other side. Pretty darn sure it would be Brock Thomas. So, yeah, the O-line would be way better. But other than that, yeah, I take the underclassmen in that one. Let me know your thoughts on that one. I hadn't thought of that before. So, anyway, that's how we wrap today's show. Tomorrow will be a crossover with Goins. We'll get you ready for Oregon, Indiana. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. Until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and go Ducks.